Good morning, my beloved. It is Monday again, and I'm excited to be here. I had two things I didn't get to cover in my podcast with Pastor Michael Moore. We had a great time talking about living a life with no regrets, and I have found that really ministers to a lot of people. That the number of people who watched, the number of people who looked at when I talked on living a life with no regrets proves that people have a lot of regret in their life and things that the enemy has used to beat them up, and that they don't enjoy the life God gave them because they have so many things that they wished they would have done differently. There are two things that I did not get to discuss, and so I want to talk about those two things quickly, and hopefully you'll go back and listen to Pastor Mike and I had a good time. One of the things that people regret when it comes to the end of their days is that they didn't take enough time to reflect, to contemplate, to meditate on where they were, where they were going, what life was about for them. You know, it's interesting when you look through the Psalms, many of the Psalms in the Bible were songs. And at the end of certain paragraphs in many of those, you'll see the word Selah. And it means to just stop and reflect on what you just heard, what you just sang. And if we would take more time just to stop the merry-go-round for a little bit, stop the gerbil cage going round and round for just a few moments to ask ourselves, where are we? Where are we going? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Instead of just going head in 100 miles an hour. I see it all the time where people are just going so fast in their life, but they really don't know where they're going. They remind me of Alice in Wonderland when she comes to this Y in the road and she's running, which way should I go? Which way should I go? And the Cheshire Cat asked her, where are you going? She said, I don't know. He said, well, then it doesn't matter. And that's the truth. If you come to a Y in the road, but you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which road you take. You don't know where you're going anyway. And I love the term Y in the road because it has this thing of why. Why should I turn left? Why should I turn right? When you look back at your life, how many times could you have changed something radically if you'd have just taken a few times, a few moments to reflect on where you were, to reflect on where you wanted to go, to truly sit down and contemplate and meditate on where am I in my life? And where is it compared to where I want to be in my life? So many times the things people regret is that they didn't take enough time to step back and Selah, pause and reflect on where they are, pause and reflect on where they're going. So that's one of the things. The other thing is they regret that they didn't take enough risks. And that's interesting to me because I'm not talking about risks like picking up a rattlesnake. I'm not talking about things that are going to obviously lead to some harm and death and dismemberment or something like that, but risks that still were anxious and fear filled. Things like when God asked you to go pray for someone or to go talk to someone, and you hesitate because what if they don't receive me? What if I say something stupid? And so that fear, they won't take the risk. But so many times I've found in my life taking that opportunity, pressing through the fear, doing it afraid. I have found that going and talking to that person, praying for that person, led to a life transforming event, not only for them, but for me. Yesterday I was in Hugo and got a chance to share in Pastor Randy and Londy's church in Hugo, the Victory Life Church there. And Randy felt the Lord say, to pray for one another in the church. And if anyone had a need, to hold up their hand. And my wife and I were believing God for some wisdom. We have to make a major decision this week. We have to know what we're going to do by Tuesday. And so I raised my hand, Ginger raised her hand, and nobody came to pray for us. One of two things happen when I'm in a church and we're asked to do something like that. One is 50 people come to try and pray for us because they get to pray for Pastor Lee and Ginger, or nobody comes because they're intimidated to pray for Pastor Lee and Ginger. And this precious, precious man finally came up and he prayed for us. And it was a beautiful prayer. And he told us he was so afraid. It was so hard for him to pray for us because he respects us so much. And the enemy tried to talk him out of it. But later he said what I'm trying to say to you. He took the risk. And he said later, he said, I feel so courageous. I feel so strong. He said, I broke through and I did that thing and I'm filled with courage. That's what happens when you obey God and you take the risk. Courage is on the other side of that risk. Or maybe it's the risk of sharing your heart with someone. And there's a risk of being misunderstood. But when you share your heart with somebody, when you open up and you tell them how you feel, when you open up and tell them what you've been through many times, it's healing for their hearts and for yours. That thing that the enemy tried to keep in the darkness of your heart, that's where he traffics, is in the darkness. And so if you bring it to the light, he loses power over it. When you take the risk to share, oftentimes on the other side of that is courage and relief and a transformed life. It is why I encourage everybody I'm connected to keep trying new things, because the more new things you try, the more your heart and your mind are expanded. The more risks that you take trying new things, the more you understand that trying new things is a way to grow and to overcome this thing we called excuses. Benjamin Franklin said, people who are good at making excuses are seldom good at anything else. Break that habit today. Stop making excuses. Take the risk. Go do that new thing. Take the risk. Share your heart. Take the risk. Go share your faith with someone. Go pray for someone in need. And I promise you, God will intervene and transform a life, one of those lives being yours. I want to say bye to a few folks as I'm leaving. Summer, bless you. Portia, Karen, always so faithful. Love you so much. Jack, oh, you guys are just so faithful. Thank you so much. Pandora, Irish, Karen again, Jim, Jimmy, Gary, bless you all so much. If you think this would help somebody you're connected to, would you click share, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to watch the Lee Armstrong podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Love y'all so much. See you next Monday.